People run around crazy town, seems they have found a place to groove on. Just about the time they're wound, someone comes along and says to move on.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Psychedelic here. And yes, I survived Memorial Day weekend down in Kansas City / Lawrence, Kansas area. The only thing I was really worried about was probably the traffic, but surprisingly pretty light, moderate traffic, which suited well for me because I'm not really used to that pace too much. So we did it. Did North Kansas City and down south, everywhere in between, and just kind of covered that whole region. I didn't go to a ton of shops, but I definitely went to the ones that left an impact last time, and I think I skipped last year going, so it was kind of nice to get a nice fresh pile, to dig through, and the reissue section was all, freshly curated, so we got a stack to share, but of course I'll be probably posting on Instagram first and then have a video to follow up on. But today, I'm going to do the 4 LP special, catch up on some LPs I haven't shown yet. I think this is the last of the few I have to share since my little hiatus, so one of these goes back a ways, probably at the very beginning of when I started making videos again. I'm going to show that very last one, and it's going to throw you for a whirl. It's definitely the left field pick of the of the pack. Start off with a couple nice originals I picked up on, and then one that's sort of, you can categorize as like a neo garage psych. I think it's an original copy from 2012 that I finally picked up on. So let's dive in. And we're going to start off with the heavy hitters. So I've been making some nice funds on PayPal recently. Overall spent like 20 to 30 bucks out of pocket for these, which is basically the shipping for this first one. And as you know, I mean, you could categorize this as a holy grail or a megawatt. I'd definitely say it fits in the megawatt category because maybe the only copy in Nebraska? I don't know. I'd like to think so, because this is, just to survive the country of origin that it came from is miraculous in itself. And today we're talking about Socrates Drank the Conium. Damn. Really, really happy to pick this one up. This is the debut record here on Polydor. Very hard to come by in clean shape, obviously. It kind of suffers the same fate as those Zambian, South African, South American records where, the product, it's like they try to release it the best they can with the quality that they have in stock, and it's got a very flimsy cover, so I put a little piece of cardboard in there to, while I'm gripping it, kind of hold it together. But the disc it's on too, I mean, it's funny, it's like a pretty heavy disc, and when you get a visual of this, you're going to think, that's like a VG Plus, right? Yeah, lots of light scratches on there. However, I got good audio clips from the seller. I heard the whole LP before I purchased it, and maybe just on the subtle, quiet moments is kind of where it's a little irritating. It kind of pops in the mix, but otherwise, if you know this record, I mean, it's a heavy beast all throughout, and it sounds really great. I mean, it doesn't overpower the music. The music stands out really nice and crisp, and that's what it's all about. Even the original, the reissues of this are even tough to come by, it turns out. I mean, I had them on the want list for maybe a couple years, as well as the original copies, and original copies don't pop up that often. I was kind of wanting the stereo copy. Seems like there's more monos than stereos being sold, but there'd be only like 1 or 2 listed, and so I just recently checked, and I was kind of like, well, what could I spend the PayPal funds on? Something that's, a little harder to come by, a little hard to obtain, and something that I really love. And this is one where, I don't know, I guess there's a bit of a divide on some people. I'm on the other half where I'm saying this is every track works for me. This is a really great, like, progressive hard rock kind of style direction. with some of those like post-60s kind of Hendrixy psychedelic flourishes to it, being a power trio. But then there's some people online that call it kind of bland and boring, and I'm like, what? A lot of the songs do kind of sound the same a little bit after a while. Even my bandmate, I told him I was trying to recommend him some songs on his way here that one weekend, and I gave him this one, and he wasn't really gravitating towards it, so I don't know. Some people must be kind of split on it. There's a couple moments on here where it kind of reminds me of like early ZZ Top with that Billy Gibbons kind of vocal and some of that kind of murky, heavy guitar going on. I think it's like It's a Disgusting World and Starvation, I think were the two tracks. But my top favorites, I would say, is Bad Conditions, Underground, Blind Illusion. There's a lot of great songs on here, a lot of great jammers. It's got this kind of guitar delay all throughout. It's like very slight delay on the guitar, sometimes on the vocals as well. But with what they're working with, I mean, I think it was only recorded within a 3-hour session, so they really kind of jam-packed all they could into the session work in the studio. And then given that they're from Greece, I didn't even mention in the beginning they're a band from Greece, and it definitely, you know, lyrically, musically, they're very much rubbing off at the culture of that time, where it was a little bit of like political turmoil, not a whole lot of like musical expressions going around at this time period. And yeah, just a lot of that is kind of felt within the nuances of what they're saying and playing on here. And then it just kind of reflects on just how this is pressed, you know, it's just really hard to find. I do know Dylan at Noble Records has this. I remember he posted about it, and that was around the same time I was kind of getting around to this one. I think their next record, On the Wings, I heard a long time ago, but I think this is still my favorite. Still kind of has that kind of like, maybe a bit of a little American kind of sounding compared to like European style. Like I said, very Hendrixy, Cream, but kind of like a reference point, kind of where they're going, but a little more progressive in style. And I guess they would kind of stick to that progressive trajectory. Socrates, Draconium, on Polydor. I love it. I think it's great. It's kind of bluesy, you know, which is, you know, I'm kind of warming up to. Not really warming up to. I just like it when they crank the dial a little bit. Reminds me of like UFO, like some of their early stuff as well. You know, got that kind of mild space rock touch to it. And cool artwork as well. Okay, and then this next one here, this is a cool original I've been wanting to pick up for a long time. Got it for 40 bucks, mainly due to the back side of the cover. It's got a little bit of water damage, and this is the Superfine Dandelion. It's one of those mainstream titles I was really lacking. It's mostly on the back here, as you can see, but it doesn't take any of the info off on the back, and I think I might, you know, put some whiteout or something on there just to kind of fill it out. I don't care. But the disc, however, very nice VG Plus, very nice vinyl copy, and obviously it's kind of known for the album cover with the guys where they're a little coked out, or maybe they're taking a little bit of that opium in that bottle there on the bottom. Got the wide eyes going on. They had a couple singles before this on the Rook label. Ferris Wheel being the A-side, which I think is hands down maybe their trippiest cut. It's got some of those Eastern sitar flourishes, kind of a moody sound. Really, really strong track. It's a shame it's not on the LP. And then it was backed with the track The Other Sidewalk. It's kind of like a fringy kind of garage rocker. Second to last track here. And for the longest time, I had a long time warming up to this one. It wasn't really one of my top mainstream titles, given that it was kind of more on the folky edge and a little rootsy in tone. But I've really warmed up to it nowadays. I mean, it used to always be like People in the Street, and that was like the only track I liked off here. Kind of, you know, your mid-tempo kind of, again, kind of ominous folk rock sound going on. But I love Crazy Town, as well as People in the Street. Janie's Tomb is kind of a messed up song lyrically. If you know, you know. And then The Other Sidewalk, of course. What's the Hurry? So overall, kind of a brief brief time spent with this on the album, but it just flows along, and I don't know if it would fit the top 10 of mainstream titles these days, but did it make it my top 10? I don't remember. Remember when I did a video on that? A nice disc here. I was just kind of waiting for an original to come along and didn't want to pick up on the reissue, even though there's a lot of Scorpio reissues out there from years ago that came out. And yeah, it's starting to sort of be one of the tougher ones to come by, but 40 bucks PayPal cash. I'm happy with that. It's kind of where it should land, 40, 50 bucks, but the way things are going right now. So, stereo copy, and they're from the Phoenix, Arizona area. It only lasted like a year together, and they just played like all the different circuits around town, Phoenix and Flagstaff in that area. So yeah, it's a cool LP. And then yeah, moving on to more newer sounds. This is one where I was a fan from the beginning. I remember when this came out in 2012. It's the year I graduated, and I just remember trying to find my placement as like where I wanted to land as far as what music did I really want to dive into. And so of course I was going, both vintage and sort of modern day sounds, contemporary sounds, and I really liked this when it came out, and I just hadn't really revisited it since then. This is Hair by Ty Segall and White Fence, kind of a collaboration of the two. And yeah, this is also a very short record. I think it's like, half hour long, but almost every track works for me, man. This has got some, this is neo-psych done well. I like when they collaborate. They got like a little bit of like acoustic folk rock touches to it, especially on tracks like Time and Easy Rider, sort of clean cut, electric tone driven tracks. But then you got, sort of this like the other half of the coin where they go kind of like really frenzy, really ramped up kind of punk energy with I'm Not a Game, as well as Crybaby, and probably my favorite cut since listening to this again, I Can't Get Around You. Also I really gravitated towards. So Scissor People, Tongues, I ended up loving this all over again. I would still consider this pretty modern sounding to me. I mean, it was recorded in the digital aspect of things. However, with time, this still holds up, I think. I think it's one of Segall's better works. And the other one I have, it's the For the Presumed Innocent record. I still have that one from Segall and White Fence. It's got a little insert here. Yeah, nice blending of acoustic-driven folk rock, but also got that Segall heavy edge to it. So, very cool. Very cool to find this. I got this one from the shop. Okay, and then landing on this last one, this is one where hold your taters. Hold on. Hold your horses. I can explain. What is this doing in the collection? What is this, like the Spice Girls or something? And your answer would be pretty closer to that than say anything else, but so this is a preteen girl group called Etcra. Now I love outsider records. This is kind of where we're going with this. I do like outsider music, but the ones that people gravitate towards, like the Shags, Philosophy of the World. I sometimes throw Captain Beefheart in there, Trout Mask Replica. I can't get into that stuff. This, I can get into. The Space Lady, I can get into. Just those kind of weird, eccentric, outsider artists. And this is one of those cases where this is accidental outsider music. Was never intended to be publicly released. It was more just like a karaoke sleepover in the late 90s, merging into 2000. Because I think it was recorded in 2000, right? I think that was, yeah, the Y2K era. And so this is like a girl group who had like musical aspirations. And I guess their mom, I think two of them are sisters. And the mother had her own studio and was friends with this sort of like German experimental electronic artist And she's like, okay, yeah, my kids, they'll have fun with customizing and playing with some of your music and laying some vocals over top of it. And boy, the results are kind of strange at first, but naive and kind of cute at the same time. Like, it's just a weird blend of like otherworldly and, like I said, kind of accidental art. And they just pressed them on like a CDR, maybe just a handful, you know, giving them to their kids in middle school, and somehow the internet got a hold of it, and now we want copies on the Numero Group label. This is on Numero. This got released this year. And when I caught wind of this on their page, I was like, man, this is kind of interesting. I gotta, like, it's sort of psychedelic in a way. Like, we always think of the traditional psychedelic sounds, right? But then there's like this whole other world where it just, the whole idea to me is like, it just takes you to another planet, whether it be, you know, Planet Gong or Planet Summer 2000. I think they were based out of the California area too. This has an insert with it. Yeah, man. I mean, there's so many different like things happening here. It's like kind of a warbly, woozy take on sort of like what Bjork was up to. Sort of that instrumentation, but then also like, you know, these girls wanted to be like the next Spice Girls or Spice World or something. And the other artists aren't coming to mind because I don't live in this world typically, but just given how experimental and avant-garde it is, and just how like poppy and how, you know, teen dance poppy it is, I was like, I used to live in this world. When you're a kid, you're not really thinking of like what kind of impact everybody else is going to think of this. You know, it's kind of like just in their own world. And man, this is awesome. I really enjoyed this one. You know, definitely not the typical pickup for me, but I was like, I gotta investigate this. Etcra, Summer 2000. I don't know if I can even have any tracks to highlight, really. Idiotic's kind of cool. I think that's the opener. And then what's that third track? I think it's Speechless. Yeah, it is the third track. Speechless has a really cool, like, kind of brings you back to like the Windows 98 startup kind of sounds, you know. I lived in that world, so I can say from experience, yes, that's what it reminds me of. I think one of these gals later became a, you know, small-time actress, I guess. I think it was this one here. I forget, but yeah, look into this. It's kind of one of those outsider music, you know, singing in the key of Z type of records. Yes, I've watched that documentary and I love that. I love outsider music, even though I don't necessarily collect it. That's one I just had to pick up on. Like I said, if people like the Shags, which I don't understand, that's my Shags. Anyways, kept you here long enough, and just, yeah, we'll get to those Kansas City finds shortly. And then in the meantime, I'll probably just be pushing out more Acid Archives. Gotta go back to my top singles of all time, Ghost Riders. This year's booked as far as video ideas, but I'm enjoying it. With that said, on that note, take care. Check out Etcra, because you know you want to, and we'll catch you down the road.